Have you ever heard of a court case where the defendant claimed the devil made me do it? Sounds like something straight out of a horror movie, right? Well, buckle up, because today we're diving into a real-life case that shook the very foundations of the American legal system. Welcome back, the go-to place for spine-chilling true crime stories. Today, we're unraveling the enigmatic case of Arne Cheyenne Johnson, a man who claimed demonic possession as his defense for committing murder. This case is not just a legal battle, it's a clash between the realms of science, law, and the supernatural. The case dates back to 1981 in Brookfield, Connecticut. Arne Cheyenne Johnson was convicted of first-degree manslaughter for killing his landlord, Alan Bono. What sets this case apart is that Johnson's defense was based on the claim that he was possessed by a demon at the time of the murder. This was the first time in U.S. history that such a defense was presented in court, making it a landmark case that captured global attention. If you're ready to delve into this mind-boggling case where law meets the paranormal, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Imagine a quiet afternoon in Brookfield, Connecticut, on February 16, 1981. The sun is setting, casting long shadows on the ground. But this peaceful setting is about to be shattered by a crime that will make headlines across the nation. On this fateful day, 40-year-old landlord Alan Bono was stabbed to death with a 5-inch pocket knife. The man wielding the knife was 19-year-old Arne Cheyenne Johnson. The crime didn't happen in a dark alley or an abandoned building. It occurred outside of a dog kennel. The police arrived at the scene to find a chilling tableau. Alan Bono lay lifeless, a pool of blood forming around him. Arne Cheyenne Johnson was quickly apprehended, setting the stage for a court case that would challenge the very boundaries of American jurisprudence. What makes this crime scene unique is not just the brutality of the act, but the circumstances surrounding it. Johnson didn't claim he was innocent. Rather, he claimed that he was possessed by a demon at the time of the murder. This was a first in the history of the United States, and it turned this crime scene into a battleground between the realms of law, science, and spirituality. Are you intrigued yet? This is just the tip of the iceberg. Hit that like button if you're ready to dive deeper into this perplexing case, and don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments below. Arne Cheyenne Johnson was a 19-year-old man living in Brookfield, Connecticut, at the time of the crime in 1981. Before the incident, Johnson was generally considered a regular teenager with no criminal record. He was engaged to Debbie Glatzel and worked as a tree surgeon. Johnson became the defendant in a murder case that would make legal history in the United States. He was accused of stabbing his 40-year-old landlord, Alan Bono, to death with a 5-inch pocket knife. What set this case apart was Johnson's defense. He claimed that he was possessed by a demon at the time of the murder. His attorney, Martin Minella, presented this claim of demonic possession as a potential defense for his murder of Bono. This was the first time in American legal history that such a defense was attempted. The case garnered national attention and is still discussed today due to its unique and controversial nature. Alan Bono was a 40-year-old man who served as the landlord for the property where Arne Cheyenne Johnson and his fiancée, Debbie Glatzel, lived. Bono was the unfortunate victim in this case, stabbed multiple times by Johnson with a 5-inch pocket knife. The incident took place in Bono's own home after a tense situation involving Debbie's cousin Mary. After the stabbing, Johnson left the weapon at the crime scene and fled to the woods, only to be arrested later. Witnesses, including Johnson's sisters Wanda and Janice, claimed that Johnson had started to growl before attacking Bono. Bono's death led to Johnson's arrest and subsequent trial, where Johnson claimed he had no recollection of stabbing Bono. The Glatzel family played a pivotal role in the Arne Cheyenne Johnson case, as they were deeply involved in the events leading up to the murder of Alan Bono. The family consisted of David Glatzel, his sister Debbie, and their parents. David, an 8-year-old at the time, claimed to be possessed by a demon, which set off a series of ominous occurrences within the family. Terrified and exhausted, the Glatzels sought the help of renowned paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. Multiple priests were also involved in petitioning the Catholic Church for a formal exorcism to be performed on David. The exorcism process lasted several days and concluded with the claim that a demon had left David's body and entered Arne Cheyenne Johnson. Debbie Glatzel, Arne's fiancée, was a key figure in the case. She was deeply involved in the exorcism process and later became a significant witness during the trial. Debbie and Arne remained committed to each other throughout the ordeal and even after the trial. The Glatzel family's involvement didn't end with the exorcism. They continued to assert that paranormal activity was real and had a direct impact on the tragic events that unfolded. Their claims were documented in the book The Devil in Connecticut by Gerald Brittle and were a focal point during the trial. Ed and Lorraine Warren were renowned paranormal investigators and self-proclaimed demonologists who played a crucial role in the Arne Cheyenne Johnson case. The couple lived in nearby Monroe, Connecticut, and were already famous for their investigations into other high-profile cases like the Amityville haunting and the Enfield poltergeist in North London. In the Johnson case, they were brought in by the Glatzel family to investigate the supposed demonic possession of David Glatzel, Debbie's younger brother. The Warrens conducted multiple exorcisms on David, claiming that a demon had transferred from him to Arne Cheyenne Johnson. Lorraine Warren stated that a total of 6 priests participated in 3 lower exorcisms performed on David, one of which allegedly took place at St. Joseph's Catholic Church with 4 priests in attendance. The Warrens' involvement added a layer of sensationalism to the case, as they asserted that 43 demons were inside David Glatzel. Their claims were documented and became a significant part of Johnson's defense strategy, which was the first in U.S. history to claim demonic possession as a reason for committing a crime. Arne Cheyenne Johnson's claim of demonic possession was a groundbreaking and sensational aspect of the case. Johnson and those close to him argued that he was not responsible for the murder of Alan Bono because he had been possessed by a demonic entity. This claim originated from the exorcism ceremonies conducted on David Glatzel, the younger brother of Johnson's then-girlfriend, Debbie. During one of these exorcism ceremonies on September 2, 1980, Johnson allegedly told the demonic entity to leave David alone and take him on instead. Johnson later reported feeling a cold sensation come over him but tried to ignore it, believing that David had been successfully freed from the demonic influence. Lorraine Warren, one of the paranormal investigators involved, even went to the local police station to express her concern for Johnson, stating that she foresaw serious injury or death with a knife and that Johnson should not have directly challenged the demonic entity. Johnson's defense team attempted to use this claim of demonic possession as a legal defense, but the local judge denied it. Johnson then claimed self-defense and was ultimately sentenced to 10-20 years in prison for manslaughter. The courtroom drama surrounding Arne Cheyenne Johnson's trial was unlike any other in American legal history. Johnson's defense team, led by his lawyer, attempted to use demonic possession as a legal defense for the murder of Alan Bono. This was the first time in the United States that such a defense was attempted, making it a subject of intense media scrutiny and public fascination. The judge, however, ruled that the claim of demonic possession could not be proven and was therefore infeasible as a legal defense. This led Johnson's defense team to switch their strategy to claiming self-defense. The trial took place between October and November 1981 and was closely followed by the media, partly fueled by the involvement of Ed and Lorraine Warren, who were self-professed demonologists. During the trial, the defense presented first-hand accounts and actual recordings of alleged devil possession, aiming to substantiate their claim. Despite their efforts, Johnson was convicted of first-degree manslaughter and was sentenced to 10-20 years in prison. He ended up serving just under 5 years due to good behavior. The defense strategy in Arne Cheyenne Johnson's trial was groundbreaking and highly controversial. Led by a young attorney, the defense argued that Johnson should not be held responsible for the murder of his landlord, Alan Bono, because he was under the influence of demonic possession. This was the first time such a defense was attempted in the United States, and it drew significant media attention. The defense presented evidence that included first-hand accounts and actual recordings of supposed demonic possession. They also brought in self-professed demonologists and paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren to testify. The Warrens had been involved in the exorcism ceremonies conducted on David Glatzel, Johnson's girlfriend's younger brother, and claimed that Johnson had been possessed during one of these ceremonies. Despite the compelling narrative and the unconventional evidence presented, the judge ruled that demonic possession could not be proven and was not a valid legal defense. This forced the defense to pivot to a self-defense strategy. Johnson's fiancée, Debbie Glatzel, testified that just before the stabbing, a drunk Bono had grabbed her cousin Mary and wouldn't let go. Johnson had intervened and, according to Debbie, began growling like an animal before drawing his knife and stabbing Bono. The prosecution in Arne Cheyenne Johnson's trial had a straightforward approach. They aimed to prove that Johnson was fully responsible for the murder of Alan Bono. They dismissed the defense's claim of demonic possession as a desperate attempt to evade justice. The prosecution argued that Johnson had acted out of anger during a heated argument with Bono over a broken TV set. They pointed out that Johnson had been carrying a 5-inch blade, which he used to stab Bono multiple times, leading to his death a few hours later. The prosecution also questioned the credibility of the defense's key witnesses, including the famous paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. They argued that the Warrens had a vested interest in the case, as it would boost their public profile and potentially lead to book deals and media appearances. The prosecution's argument was strong enough to convince the jury. After 15 hours of deliberation, Johnson was convicted of first-degree manslaughter. The judge, Robert Callahan, had already rejected the defense's plea of not guilty by virtue of possession, stating that such a plea couldn't exist in a court of law. The prosecution's focus on the tangible evidence and the implausibility of demonic possession as a legal defense played a significant role in Johnson's conviction. During the trial, eyewitness accounts played a crucial role in shaping the narrative. Arne Johnson's sisters were present at the scene of the crime and had signed police statements affirming that they had witnessed Johnson stab Alan Bono. These testimonies were particularly damning for Johnson, as they came from his own family members. The detective who processed Johnson after the stabbing also provided his account. In the Arne Cheyenne Johnson case, forensic evidence played a pivotal role in establishing the facts. The autopsy report of Alan Bono indicated multiple stab wounds to the chest and stomach, inflicted by a 5-inch pocket knife. This evidence was consistent with the weapon that Johnson had on him at the time of his arrest. The forensic team also examined the crime scene meticulously. Blood spatter patterns were analyzed to understand the dynamics of the attack. The patterns indicated a close-range assault, which was consistent with eyewitness accounts that described Johnson as being in close proximity to Bono during the altercation. Additionally, the forensic team looked into fingerprints and DNA evidence. Johnson's fingerprints were found on the pocket knife, further solidifying the prosecution's case against him. After a trial that captivated the nation, the verdict in the Arne Cheyenne Johnson case was finally delivered. Johnson was convicted of first-degree manslaughter and was sentenced to 10 to 20 years in prison. The conviction was a significant moment in American legal history, as it marked the first time a defense of demonic possession had been attempted and subsequently rejected by a court in the United States. The implications of the verdict were far-reaching. It set a legal precedent that demonic possession could not be used as a defense in a court of law. This ruling had a ripple effect on future cases, discouraging similar defenses from being employed. Johnson's conviction also sparked debates about the intersection of law and spirituality, raising questions about the extent to which unconventional beliefs can be considered in legal proceedings. Interestingly, Johnson only served 5 years in prison due to good behavior, a fact that later shocked viewers when it was revealed in a Netflix series about the case. The Arne Cheyenne Johnson case was a media sensation that drew national attention, especially given its unprecedented defense strategy involving demonic possession. The case was widely covered by various news outlets and even inspired a Netflix series titled The Devil on Trial. The media dubbed the case The Devil Made Me Do It murder trial, emphasizing its unique and sensational aspects. The public was equally captivated and divided. Some saw Johnson as a victim of supernatural forces, while others viewed the defense as a desperate attempt to escape legal responsibility. The involvement of renowned paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren added another layer of intrigue, as they were already famous for their work on other high-profile cases like the Amityville haunting. The case also sparked debates on social media. The Arne Cheyenne Johnson case raised a plethora of ethical and moral questions that reverberated through the legal system and society at large. One of the most pressing questions was the legitimacy of using demonic possession as a defense in a court of law. Is it ethical to allow such a defense, which is rooted in religious and supernatural beliefs, in a secular legal system? Another question revolved around the role of the media in sensationalizing the case. Did the extensive media coverage, which often focused on the more sensational aspects like demonic possession and the involvement of paranormal investigators, compromise the integrity of the trial? The case also raised moral questions about personal responsibility. If Johnson truly believed he was possessed, does that absolve him of the responsibility for his actions? Or does the act of taking another human life always carry with it an undeniable moral weight, regardless of the circumstances? Furthermore, the case prompted discussions about the intersection of law and spirituality. To what extent should unconventional beliefs be considered in legal proceedings? Is there room for spiritual considerations in a system that is supposed to be objective and evidence-based? Lastly, the relatively short sentence Johnson received, only 5 years due to good behavior, brought up ethical questions about the justice system itself. Is such a short sentence for taking a life justifiable? And what does it say about the value society places on human life? These ethical and moral questions continue to be topics of debate and discussion, not just in legal circles but also in the public sphere, adding another layer of complexity to an already complicated case. Religion played an undeniably significant role in the Arne Cheyenne Johnson case, both in the courtroom and in public discourse. The defense's claim of demonic possession as a justification for Johnson's actions brought religious beliefs directly into the legal arena. This was a groundbreaking move, as it was the first time in U.S. legal history that such a defense was attempted. The involvement of Ed and Lorraine Warren, self-professed demonologists and devout Catholics, further emphasized the role of religion. They claimed to have conducted multiple exorcisms on David Glatzel, Johnson's girlfriend's younger brother, and asserted that Johnson had been possessed during one of these ceremonies. Their testimony brought religious practices and beliefs into the spotlight, raising questions about their place in a legal setting. The case also sparked debates among religious communities. Some saw it as a validation of the belief in demonic forces and the power of exorcism, while others criticized it as a misuse of religious concepts to evade legal responsibility. Moreover, the case led to discussions about the separation of church and state. Should religious beliefs be allowed to influence legal proceedings? And if so, to what extent? These questions were hotly debated, not just in legal circles but also among religious leaders and scholars. The case served as a catalyst for conversations about the role of religion in modern society, especially when it intersects with legal and ethical issues. It challenged the boundaries between secular law and religious belief, leaving a lasting impact on how such cases might be approached in the future. The Arne Cheyenne Johnson case has not only left an indelible mark on legal history but has also inspired various forms of media. One of the most notable adaptations is Netflix's documentary film The Devil on Trial, directed by Christopher Holt. This documentary delves deep into the case, featuring first-hand accounts, actual recordings of alleged devil possession, and interviews with those at the center of the trial, including Johnson himself. It explores the events leading up to the high-profile trial and its shocking aftermath. Another significant adaptation is the 2021 movie The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, which reinvestigates the Johnson case. Arne and Debbie Johnson were both involved in the making of this film. Sadly, Debbie passed away shortly after the film's release. These adaptations have played a crucial role in keeping the public's interest alive in this extraordinary case. They offer different perspectives and new insights, making it a subject of ongoing fascination and debate. After the trial concluded, the lives of the key people involved took different turns. Arne Cheyenne Johnson was released from prison after serving just 5 years due to good behavior. Since his release, he has kept a low profile and has largely stayed out of the public eye. As for the Glatzel family, they continued to maintain that Arne was possessed at the time of the crime. However, they too have remained relatively private, avoiding media attention as much as possible. Ed and Lorraine Warren, the paranormal investigators involved in the case, continued their work in the field and gained even more notoriety. They went on to investigate other high-profile cases and have been the subject of various films and documentaries. The case itself has had a lasting impact on the legal system, setting a precedent that demonic possession cannot be used as a defense. It has also inspired various media adaptations, including documentaries and films, keeping the story alive and subject to ongoing public interest and debate. The Arne Cheyenne Johnson case was groundbreaking in many ways, but perhaps its most lasting impact has been on the legal system. The case set a significant legal precedent by being the first in U.S. history to attempt a defense of demonic possession. Although the defense was ultimately unsuccessful, the case opened the door for discussions about the role of religious and supernatural beliefs in the courtroom. The verdict in this case established that demonic possession could not be used as a legal defense for criminal action. This ruling has had a ripple effect on subsequent cases, discouraging similar defenses from being employed. It has also led to debates within the legal community about the extent to which unconventional beliefs can be considered in legal proceeding. Moreover, the case has been cited in legal literature and has been the subject of various academic discussions, particularly in the fields of criminal law and ethics. It serves as a case study in the limitations of the defense strategies that can be employed in a court of law, and the separation of religious beliefs from legal arguments. The case has thus left a lasting imprint on the American legal landscape, challenging the boundaries of what is considered admissible in court and setting a precedent that continues to be referenced today. While the case of Arne Cheyenne Johnson has been a subject of fascination for many who believe in the supernatural, it has also attracted its fair share of skeptics. One such skeptic is Christopher Holt, the director of the Netflix documentary The Devil on Trial. Holt, who identifies as a skeptic, focused his documentary on the human elements of the case rather than attempting to prove or disprove the claims of demonic possession. Skeptics often point to the lack of verifiable evidence to support the claim of demonic possession. They argue that the defense's claim was a desperate attempt to escape legal responsibility, and that it played into sensationalism rather than factual evidence. Holt himself expressed that the sequence of events doesn't require much analysis. Johnson committed the crime, his lawyers attempted an unprecedented defense strategy, and it failed. Moreover, skeptics question the role of Ed and Lorraine Warren in the case. They argue that the Warrens, known for their involvement in high-profile paranormal investigations, may have added an element of spectacle to the case, further muddying the waters between fact and fiction. The skepticism extends to the legal community as well, where the case serves as a cautionary tale against allowing religious or supernatural beliefs to interfere with the legal process. It raises questions about the integrity of the justice system when unconventional defenses are entertained. Ed and Lorraine Warren, the renowned paranormal investigators, had a unique perspective on the Arne Cheyenne Johnson case. They were deeply involved from the beginning, providing their expertise in demonic possession to support Johnson's defense. According to an interview with the Warrens, they believed that David Glatzel, the younger brother of Johnson's fiancée, was the initial target of the demonic entity. David experienced terrifying visions and physical attacks, which the Warrens concluded were clear signs of demonic possession. Post-trial, the Warrens continued to assert that demonic forces were at play in this case. They claimed that during the exorcisms they oversaw, David Glatzel levitated, cursed, and even stopped breathing. More astonishingly, they said that David had predicted the murder that Johnson would eventually commit. The Warrens insisted that Johnson had been possessed by the same demonic entity that initially targeted David Glatzel. They warned Johnson against investigating a well where the malicious presence was believed to be strongest, advice he did not heed. The Warrens' perspective has been both supported and criticized. While they stood by their claims, skeptics and even some members of the legal community questioned the validity of introducing supernatural elements into a court of law. Nonetheless, the Warrens' involvement added a layer of complexity and intrigue to a case that remains a subject of debate and speculation to this day. The Glatzel family has had a complex journey since the trial of Arne Cheyenne Johnson. Debbie Glatzel, who was Johnson's girlfriend and later his wife, passed away from an unspecified form of cancer in 2021. She was involved in the making of The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, a film based on the case. David Glatzel, who was initially believed to be possessed, is now in his early 50s. He spoke out for the first time about his experience in the Netflix documentary The Devil on Trial. David still believes that he was possessed, and he and his brother Carl sued the author of the book The Devil in Connecticut and Ed and Lorraine Warren for invasion of privacy, libel, and infliction of emotional distress. Carl Glatzel, Debbie's oldest brother, has a different perspective. He doesn't believe that any demonic possession occurred within his family. He also accused Ed and Lorraine Warren of misleading the family, claiming that they would become rich from a book deal. According to Carl, his parents earned $4,500 from the book deal, while the Warrens made over $81,000. The family remains divided on the issue of demonic possession, and their lives have been significantly impacted by the case and its subsequent media adaptations. Arne Cheyenne Johnson, once a convicted criminal, has had a life full of twists and turns since his trial. Johnson was sentenced to 10-20 years in prison for first-degree manslaughter, but was released as early as 1986 due to good behavior. He married Debbie Glatzel, his longtime girlfriend and supporter, in January 1984 while he was still serving his sentence. Debbie stood steadfastly by his side, even supporting his claim that his actions were a result of demonic possession. Unfortunately, Debbie passed away in 2021 from an unspecified form of cancer, a loss that remains a painful point for Johnson. He continues to assert his belief in demonic possession as the cause of his actions and appears in the Netflix documentary The Devil on Trial, where he discusses his life and experiences. The Arne Cheyenne Johnson case is a fascinating blend of legal drama, religious beliefs, and the unexplained. It raises questions that go beyond the realm of law and into the territory of morality, spirituality, and human psychology. While the court's decision was based on legal grounds, dismissing the claim of demonic possession, the case leaves us pondering the boundaries of human understanding and the complexities of the justice system. It's a case that invites skepticism but also challenges our conventional beliefs. Whether one believes in the supernatural or not, the case serves as a compelling study of how far we're willing to go to understand the inexplicable. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the Arne Cheyenne Johnson case, a story that has captivated and puzzled people for over 4 decades. It's a case that has everything: drama, suspense, and a touch of the supernatural. But what do you think? Was Arne Johnson truly possessed? Or was it a desperate attempt to escape the consequences of his actions? If you found this video intriguing, don't forget to hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your engagement helps us bring more such stories to light. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss out on our future videos. That's it for today, folks. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and as always, stay tuned for more.